Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having a phenomenal day. We're taking a look here at SUI, seeing what's going on. Is this coin sweet or is it not so sweet at this point? Well, the truth is it's looking pretty good in the overall sense. It's got a decent structure here, essentially creating higher lows but also lower highs. Oftentimes that can actually break down just based on where it derived from. I'll talk about this a little bit more and obviously just kind of help you understand what this means. It's just a potential pattern. It doesn't mean the price is going to drop out, but I don't like how Bitcoin's performing, and I don't like how strong SUI responds to that. Even though it recovers well, it also dumps fast. So if you're considering using any type of leverage, specifically high leverage on this coin, it's probably a bad idea. As well as you can have some success with that, you got to make sure to pay close attention to it and ensure that you're not just using too high of a position. I would say very low position or low leverage is safer. If you're going to insist on high leverage, which is a bad idea because liquidation is a very consistent thing with this market, make sure it's a low position. I prefer you to have larger position size and lower leverage so you have sustainability, but don't misinterpret that and think that I want you to take big positions either, because you should use no more than 5% of your total portfolio at any given time, because if you do anything more than that, it's a slippery slope. Avoid cross leverage so you're not tempted to add to your position, or so it doesn't pull from your overall availability. So a lot of red flags there with those kind of trades. So stick to isolated, low leverage. You'll thank me later. Okay, so SUI, quick little look back here. We can look in the last 7 days and see all the liquidations pretty much to the downside. There is some left above. Some folks are shorting it. They have stop losses or liquidation events at about $5. But for the most part, minus that small amount there, we have more to the downside than the upside as far as closer and or accumulation, right? When we look at the macro, technically, there's a lot more to the upside than the downside. So it's kind of a funny thing, depending on how you look at it. Truth is, we're not really close to any liquidation range just yet, which is a good sign, implying that we'll probably range bound for a little while, or if it were to respond, it would make sense for $5 to be hit first before the price pulls back. But you got to recognize that's contingent on Bitcoin too, because every time Bitcoin pulls back, SUI has pretty significant corrections, but it also responds quickly too. So to me, honestly, it's not really worth the trade or the risk, just because this coin is so volatile at the moment. Until there's a definitive direction, definitive bottom. We know the direction right now is still down for the market. It's best to just kind of avoid, high risk trades. And me personally, this is kind of a high risk asset for the moment. We take a look here. Liquidation delta is still short heavy, so people are shorting this coin more than you'd think. And then if we take a look at open interest, obviously we got these late longs at 527 as I advised against previously, but if you didn't catch that, I would still advise against taking longs at the top until the price actually breaks out. Breakout traders are super unsuccessful. You can see these are a lot of breakout traders. 21.1 million in open interest at that level. So sucks to be you. All right, so take a look here. We can see lower range here. There's just kind of some people are adding to their position. It's hard to really say specifically. There are some late longs at 457 and late longs at 470. They're somewhat in profit, but again, still high risk trade, right? When we're going to look at support and resistance levels here soon to kind of define that. This range of 450 to 470 is a solid support range, but equally as much, 480 to 490 is that resistance range too. So you keep in mind here, specifically 470 to 485 is that resistance range that we truly haven't broken free from yet. So just be mindful of that. Closing above that resistance range could imply we see further upside. But again, you can kind of see the support range, previous high turned into new low. Until that defines itself, we're kind of going to have to presume that this little range is going to work as a support. But I don't like when we keep retesting it. We keep wicking down pretty aggressively. Like these are not the kind of wicks you want to try to sustain. 10% candle wicks in a 24-hour period, that's very obnoxious. Anything over 10x leverage is going to get liquidated. Okay, so again, not cool. Having said that, we're still in good shape on the RSI on the daily time frame. This is one of the only coins right now that has a good macro structure as far as the overall sense of higher highs and higher lows, maintaining itself above key level supports. Even though we are stochastically diverging and the MACD is soon to diverge, those are kind of ominous signs letting us know a shift in momentum is forming that hasn't happened yet. All right, we're above all moving averages too. We got a lot of support at 455. Previous confluence with open interest in that range from last week. And then, of course, we can kind of see that there with the moving average. Now, take a look here at the 4 hour. we're still, again, this is where I was talking about yesterday and the day before, with these being somewhat of a resistance range, okay? In other words, there's confluence here, basically, a lot of confirming factors at one specific area, such as 185, confirming that we have resistance here. While we peaked above here previously, you always wait for the price action to close above, and it didn't, so therefore we kind of presume 185 is a resistance. It's that golden pocket. If you're not familiar, golden pocket's the 0.618 to 0.65 fib level, just kind of a natural occurring area that typically has a lot of resistance at first or a lot of support at first, depending on what direction you're heading. In this case, we're trying to go up, so we keep retesting that. Generally not favorable. Another thing that's not favorable too, just to kind of throw it out there, this is just strictly a loosey-goosey type of pattern here. But if you can kind of see, we're working ourselves into a type of pennant pattern, and as the price breaks it down, essentially, usually these triangles or pennants, the price will work itself into kind of a bit of a compression, and then typically they break down. Again, this is only like a 55-60% probability for this kind of breakout. You can find this too, by the way, future reference in my Discord. I have an education section. Actually, no, I think it's in chart patterns. I have different chart patterns, but what we're seeing right now is the start of a bearish pennant, and they don't carry a tremendously large success rate. That's why you never trade patterns alone, but that is just something to be mindful of. Okay. Now, again, this could totally be invalidated in a moment. In fact, it probably will be, just based on how this coin is. But the truth is this is not a good structure overall here, but the macro structure is still good too. So that's the funny thing. There's a lot of things that are kind of pointing in different directions, right? There's not a ton of this is a great thing to trade right now, right? The truth is, though, when we look here, we're getting closer to a positive sign, right? We keep trying to break above 50 in the RSI. A closure above that 480, 485 would give us that. And that's usually a confirming factor I like to look for when I take a trade. So again, structure alone, not worth it, right? But we don't trade on structures. We trade on everything combined, okay? So having said that, the 4-hour time frame does look like it wants to break up. We're getting closer to a MACD convergence as well. Money flow is trailing behind, but also relevant there in that sense where it is increasing. The key takeaway here is being above these moving averages. I'm a firm believer in being above the 20 and or 50-day SMA on the 4-hour. So if we kind of look at this tentative trend line here, we can recognize that we're in a position right now where we haven't truly broken the trend, right? We're close to it, but all the more reason why you wait. Say Bitcoin runs towards 90,000 in the next 24 hours. You really think SUI is going to explode and take off and break its local high? Probably not. Okay. So just again, don't try not to act on emotion or impulse right now. I know it's easy to say, but it's definitely not worth it. However, there are some positive things here. Let's take a quick look at the hourly and just verify that we're in the cloud. This is generally construed as a no buy zone. Lagging span is free and clear, but it's soon to intersect. And then conversion lines over the baseline. So we got good momentum check. That's nice. Haven't broken this descending trend line yet, though. Even if it's this short-term trend line based on the moving average or the Ichimoku cloud, if you are above both, then you have more confidence in taking a trade. Okay. So again, in a perfect world, Bitcoin's bottomed out at 92 to 93,000, and SUI keeps going up. That should happen. If Bitcoin doesn't perform properly, which has it really been a good performer lately? No. Until that changes, we got to recognize that SUI is going to be fallible, if you will. All coins are, but this coin is performing better than most, so I'll give it that. It's just, statistically, you're slightly more inclined to find profit if you take a long versus a short with this coin right now. But again, those aren't the kind of odds you take. You don't take odds on 50, 55%. You want to have a 70, 80, 90% probability of success when you take a trade. And again, not like every single analysis provides those results, but generally speaking, you should be convincing yourself not to take a trade with a coin when you look at the charts versus trying to take a trade. Think about this. How many times have you looked at a chart and been going through this little checklist and be like, oh, great, getting more and more excited about taking a trade? While that's okay, if your purpose is trying to find a banger or a winner, then you're doing it wrong. You got to just try to find as many losers as you can, and then the winner will shine through, right? Again, it's not what you do, it's why you do what you do that defines you, and or in this case, how you do it is also super relevant. I hope I made sense with that. Otherwise, I just want to say thanks again for being an amazing part of my life. I'm going to post our playout chart here on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. If you're not familiar, they look a little something like this, where I just consistently give you updates. Solana also has a pretty bad structure, but the whole market does for the most part. Anyways, that's all there for you. If you want to become a better trader, cryptocash.tech is the site, link down below. Jump on over to our Discord. Congrats to our committee members here for not going to brag about the Solana profit. That's nothing. We basically just closed it in a minor profit because we wanted to walk away from our long in the green, which we did. And then Bitcoin, we flipped short here where we have a short from Bitcoin at 95.4. We jumped in at 95,400 and have since secured one profit target. Our second one, I think, is still very likely. All right, cool. Thanks again for your time, folks. Have a good rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.